And hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 9 of Two Guys Talking Sports. I'm Pat McDonald with Choice 102 and Radigan Media. He's Tim Burney of the Sports Reports. Tim, we're going to start this week talking about Week 1 games in New York State high school football, and we'll start with the first game of last week. It was on Thursday night, Waverly with a dominant performance against Binghamton.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much of that was Waverly and how much of it was Binghamton. Sadly enough, that Binghamton team's going to struggle this year, obviously, to win a game. Waverly's good. We know that. Horseheads beats Norwich pretty convincingly, and they play each other this week. I think it's Horseheads beat Watertown and Norwich. I think this is Horseheads' first real test of the season. Waverly beat a pretty good CSP team. They'll probably find itself in the state semifinals, Class D. So we're going to get a pretty good indication, I think, on Horseheads this week, and we'll see if Waverly can make it 3 in a row.
Yeah, and Waverly going up against a bigger school for the first time. I mean, Binghamton's a bigger school, but they only have 20-some kids on the team. That's surprising, obviously, with one of the bigger schools. But, Waverly, I think they went in that game knowing they just had to stay healthy and kind of just play their game, and they were going to be all right. 57-0, a win over Binghamton, who...
Binghamton I think Binghamton and Ithaca at one point were the two biggest schools in Section 4. Binghamton's all the way down to Class A now.
Yeah. So, but Waverly... Waverly playing a good Horseheads team. Coach Miller talked in an earlier episode here that Horseheads has kind of been the talk of the western part of Section 4, and you'll hear in just a little bit from Coach Kevin Hillman from Horseheads, but I think Horseheads is going to provide a good test for Waverly.
I agree, and it'll be Waverly's got a pretty good schedule. They're going to go against Maine Endwell next week after Horseheads, so I think, and then Horseheads is starting a heck of a stretch that we'll talk about later. So both these teams, by the time they get into their divisional play, are going to be pretty battle-tested.
Tioga had their really first big test of the week or the season here last week, too. They beat a Windsor team at home, extended that winning streak both at home, which is even dates further back, right? And then the overall winning streak is up to, 43 games
43,
now?
43, yeah.
So a good win over Windsor, though.
Yeah, Windsor's a good team. They're gonna threaten Shenango Forks in their division in Class C. That could have been a much closer game. Windsor had a couple costly turnovers that Tioga turned into points, which good teams do. And but anybody talking about we talk about Canton, and you said the rumors of their demise greatly exaggerated. Same with Tioga. People, I think anybody that thought Tioga was going to fall off a cliff with the graduation of those 13 seniors can see now that they are definitely not going anywhere. They've got 5 running backs up there that are pretty good. They even lost one, Logan Bellis. And they still had 2 backs go over 100 and another one with 92 last week. So against a good Windsor team, Windsor's going to win a lot of football games this year. Yeah,
I've been impressed with Shane Platukas. Has looked really good, kind of stepping up into that number 1 role since Bellis went down. Hopefully Bellis back in a few weeks anyway, hopefully for the Tigers' sake, because he's obviously a dynamic player there.
Keep your eye on Jake Brown, too.
Yeah.
First year, hasn't played since he was a freshman. He had 92 yards on, I think, 8 carries, and he was just imposing his will on Windsor's defense in the fourth quarter, carrying people. And he's a 225-pound fullback who's got really good speed. So I think once he gets a little better feel for the game, after not playing for 2 years, he's going to be very dangerous for them.
And I know we've talked about it a few times. I think as the season goes on, Jaden Duncanson's going to take over some games here for Coach Aiello from the quarterback spot. And then for Tioga, like the last 20 years, it's all about the line up front, right? And they might not be the biggest line. They're pretty big though, but this year,
Tate McCauley, Garrett Godfrey, both big boys. Those two, and then Derek Mills, only a sophomore at center, is just a beast. So those 3 veterans up front, and they've got a Jackson Clark who played a lot last year. So they got a pretty veteran line, and it's really carried them the first 2 weeks as those younger skill players gain more experience. The team's just going to get better as the season goes.
And Tioga, another big test coming up. We'll talk about that later on as they'll take on Shenango Forks. Owego, a team that a lot of people are talking about now. They bring back a lot of kids, 20 seniors, I think, 60-some kids on the roster. Coach Patton Taylor doing a nice job. He was on with us last week on Two Guys Talking Sports. They roll over Union Endicott 34-0 after a slow start, though.
Yeah, 7-0, pick 6 was the only score in the first half. And then offensively, they just kind of churned to life a little bit in the second half, both running and throwing the ball. So the better balance they have on offense, the better. I think they're going to be very good defensively this year. But like we talked about last week with Coach Taylor, all roads go through Maine Endwell in Class B. So, but like I said, if there's a year that Owego's going to beat them. It's this year with that bunch of seniors they've got.
Sticking over that way, Spencer Burnett and Candor, first win in the Jared Wayman era, 34-22 over Dryden. So congrats to Coach Wayman there.
Logan Amon, they're kind of a dual threat for them, but they kind of focus him a little more on offense now. He's a good defensive player, but they're trying to keep him healthy. Ran the ball very effectively for him last week. He's going to be fun to watch this year. I think they're only going to get better.
Newark Valley took on Schuyler team there, right? I'm trying to find the
16 to
score
8
here. So 16-8 Newark Valley. So
yeah,
that's a gutsy battle there up in Schuyler, it seems like.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a great coaching staff. Ted Hardenstein does a great job up there. I think it was 21-14. I misspoke. He does a great job up at Newark Valley, and that coaching staff he's got is top notch. That team's another one that's only going to get better as the season goes on. Again, and that's probably, people talk about Waverly Tioga as a rivalry, and it is, but Newark Valley Tioga is the rivalry up there that those kids, they play for, and they're in the same division now. Newark Valley's been down in Class D the last couple of years, so that'll be a big game later in the season.
Moving up into the Elmira Corning area, Corning rolled 60-6 over Edison Tech, so not much, no surprise there, pretty much for Mike Johnson and crew.
Yeah, that offense they run is so different that it's tough to prepare for, and if you don't see it on a regular basis, it's so tough to stop. That triple option wing T stuff that they just, they force you to be very disciplined, and you can't see through their big line and stuff. It's hard to see what they're doing in the backfield. It's just so tough to defend, especially when you don't see it. They're the only team around here that plays it anymore, so it's really tough, and they do it well.
It's always funny to see, too, because they're one of the bigger schools in the state, right? So as far as they're up there in class, and they're running kind of a small school offense. So
but it's very effective.
It is. And speaking of some bigger schools, Elmira took a loss there, St. Peter's 16-8, so a low-scoring game.
Well, and the funny thing is Elmira had the ball late on the 1 and couldn't punch it in. But St. Peter's is from Long Island, and they'd already had 2 games under the belt because they not only do a week 0, they do a week 00 game. So they had 2 games. And Elmira made a lot of first-game mistakes. I think that's a team that's, it seems to be a theme here, but I think you're going to see them get better. They've got some athletes, no doubt about it. Be interesting to see what they put together this season.
All right, well, right now we're going to throw it to our interview with Horseheads head football coach Kevin Hillman. And joining us now on Two Guys Talking Sports is Horseheads head football coach Kevin Hillman. How are we doing, Coach?
Good. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Coach, you guys off to a 2-0 start. A lot of buzz around your program this year. Your first 2 wins over Watertown and Norwich. First game up to Cortland you played. I understand you're a graduate of Cortland. That had to be a nice experience for you.
Yeah, it was awesome. And that was the first time I graduated 2001. I think they built the stadium shortly thereafter. So I've gone up, a couple times. I really haven't been in to see a game. I went to a couple quarter jug games and stuff. It went kind of when they were in MetLife and stuff like that. And so that was the first time actually in the stadium itself. So that was a pretty surreal moment for me, just being an alumni and stuff like that. And then, getting a victory there was extra special.
What have you seen from your team so far? Obviously, you had a good team coming back, but what have you seen so far that's impressed you?
I just think work ethic wise, defensively, the way they've been swarming to the ball, flying to the ball, picking up reads. Obviously, we still got a lot of work to do. I mean, it's the old cliche of, look at the film and all that stuff, but there's still a lot of mistakes that we're getting away with right now. And as these weeks go on, and it's just going to keep better and better. And the teams we play are really, really good. And the coaching staffs are really good. We got to tighten that stuff up because there's, just from what we see, there's a lot of holes there that need to be cleaned up that other coaches can exploit. So hopefully we continue to work and get better. But I just like the way these guys are battling and they're pushing each other. And we got a lot of guys competing at positions. So that kind of helps as well.
Yeah, I would say looking at your schedule, business is about to pick up with Waverly, Owego, Elmira, Corning, and Vestal coming in the next 5 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is where I'm on really high stress alert right now. So my blood pressure will be through the roof for the next 5 weeks.
I'm sure you've watched some game film. What do you see from Waverly that has you concerned or?
Everything. No, I mean, offensively, They're really good. They're on time in rhythm with a lot of their throws. They do a great job of just mixing some formations up and trying to get themselves in a positive position offensively. But they get rid of the ball quickly. They take shots when they need to. But they're a mix of run and pass. So, we really got to be, if we don't get pressure on the quarterback, that's going to give us problems in our secondary because it's hard to stay on guys. And, even though, Tommaso's gone, but with Shaw there, he does a great job and he can make plays with his feet. So, and then up front, they got some boys up there. So they got some guys on that line on both sides that are going to give us, they could give us problems. We're not the biggest guys up front. I think athletically we're okay, but, we're going to see what we're made of a little bit, I think, especially up front this week. So, we're excited. We're excited for the opportunity and the chance to play, a team that won a state title last year. So it's going to be fun.
I called the game in Waverly last Thursday. I looked down from the press box. Did I see some Horseheads blue down there in the stands?
There's some there, but they're usually we put them in camouflage. But, there's definitely some people there.
So, Coach, talk a little bit about your squad, especially offensively. I think I've said it a few times. I think this Waverly defense is scary good this year. So, what are you guys offensively? What are you going to have to do this week to be successful?
Yeah, which is there because they're big up front, but they also athletically can move and get to the ball. So that's what's concerning. Because we have some guys, I think athletically we're pretty good. I think we have some slots or wing backs that will move to the slots and some running backs. We have guys that we can spread the ball with. We have, I think Miles Woodhouse is one of our, our split end X receiver who I think can be a game changer at times. So I think we have some weapons. We just got to try to keep them off balance. I think we got to be able to use a little bit of our athleticism, get some guys in space, and hopefully some things can happen. I'm a little concerned that if we can run inside the tackles with those guys, and pound the football, doesn't mean we're not going to try and see what we can do. But if not, we got to be able to get this ball, spread around a little bit and try to work that in different ways.
Yeah, your quarterback there, Dowdle, 8 for 19 last week, 88 yards. How do you? Obviously, the pass rush from Waverly is pretty intense, right? So how do you work with this week on that?
Yeah, he's got to be on time with his throws and his reads. Like if we have things, they're going to be quick reads and stuff like that. And he's got to read it, make his mind up, get rid of the ball, or sometimes you got to tuck it and run, or just live for another day. So that's kind of thing. We're not going to be able to sit back there and go through like some really deep drops and try to get some deep shots down the field progression wise. There might be some ones where we take some shots down the field, but it's not going to be really complicated. It's going to be something where he knows where he's going to get rid of the ball pretty quick. Because standing back there on that pass rush, stuff like that, I don't think is beneficial. And chance of a big play defensively for them are probably higher than offensively for us. So just keeping them off balance, play action stuff, things like that, I think will be important.
But the good thing about that is this game and the next couple games after that are all non-divisional games for you. So
that's what I think is really, really great for us to start off this way, because we go with these guys and we go who's, I think, sneaky good this year. I think a lot of people are going to be sleeping on those guys, and they're really good. And then you go Elmira, Corning, and those are, before we get in the league play. So that's a really good test to see where you're at. I think, realistically, it helps us, going into those league games, having this stiff competition, because now we've gone through it. And playing at Waverly this week in that type of environment is just nothing but a great experience for us. So, that's you look at it, it's a tough game early on, but I think we're excited for the challenge and excited for the atmosphere. And, it's great to play those type of games early on in the season.
I was watching your game on the live stream last week, and the crowd, it was your home game, right? First home game of the year. It's pretty exciting.
Yep.
How big is that to have, like a WeGo at home, Corning at home, UE at home?
That's huge. It's huge because we've had some pretty good turnouts, especially since they built a new stadium and all that stuff. Community's been really supportive, so it makes for a really, really great atmosphere. So I love that stuff. Friday night,
you can't miss that stadium.
Places. Yeah, you can't. Which is great. It's great. You go by. It's good advertising out there. That stuff's not very tall though, so when people are going by, they probably don't see me. But sorry.
Do the visitors have any place to dress, or are they still sitting out? That's great home field.
No, we got locker rooms now. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So the first year or two, we didn't have them, and then last year was the first year they built them. So now they're there. It was always nice though when they came, because they get there and they didn't know, and it's like a little advance for us. We're like, they got nowhere to change.
So looking at your division this year, Binghamton looks, after what I saw Thursday night at Waverly, they look down this year. UE looks like they're young. They've taken a couple. Of course, Maine and Wego are both very good. Tough start to the season for them, but they look a little young and a little down. Looks like it could be Horseheads Vestal playing for their division.
Yeah, I'm not making any predictions or saying anything on here. So I think, listen, they're all very well coached. They've all had their moments, So I know those guys all know what they're doing. All those coaches have been either with a coach coaching with them who's won a section title or themselves have won a section title. So they know what it takes to get the job done. It's early in the season. Things can change. So, I'm going to be a straight coach cliche right now and say we're just focused on this week at Waverly, and we'll look at that stuff as we go.
Yeah. How do you keep that going? Because you guys have been getting hyped up by a lot of places, right? A lot of people are talking about Horseheads as one of the best teams in the region this year. So how do you keep those kids focused on that 1-0 mentality?
It's tough. As I just say, you just kind of go to each week. And then going into this week, I say, hey, this is another week. It's a good test for you guys to really see, let's see where you are now, because they'll talk with you guys, you've won some big games, stuff like that. But now you're going against a team that, they won a state title last year. They're well coached. They're always in the mix down there. So this could be a good test to see where these boys are at. So
we were talking a little before we started taping here today. You're an EFA grad.
Yep.
I'm a Waverly grad that goes all the way back to the STC, and you said you remember those days from your childhood.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on how it's changed. No more Corning East and West. It's all Corning. No more Southside and EFA. It's all Elmira. Your thoughts about that.
Yeah, I think I said it earlier too. I feel like the old guy now talks about how it was back when I was a kid. But man, I really do miss that. I just don't think that there's like those rivalry type games. I mean, these are like you play Elmira and Corning. It's there, but it's just not that EFA Southside was something special. That East West. I'm sure like Sayre, Waverly, all that stuff back in the day. Athens, Waverly. It was huge, man. It was, and even like playing at Horseheads back then, EFA. It was just, I don't know. To me, it just doesn't seem the same. I just miss that. Plus, like the Erie Bell game itself, like when you did that stuff, I know just for myself, like we lost my senior year for the first time, I think in like 10 years it was. And we ended up going and winning, upsetting Vestal in the section title game. And we get through, we all get back together. And we didn't even talk about the section title game. We're still pissed that we lost to that freaking Southside game.
You're
so
right.
It's funny, like how important that stuff was to us back then. So it's I kind of miss that. But I'm sure these kids now they might think it's the same like I did back then. So who knows?
That's the old Michigan-Ohio State. If Michigan fan, if you're 0-11, as long as you beat Ohio State, you're good to go, right, for the next year.
That's right. And that was too. That Southside wasn't great that year. I think that's like one of their first couple, like maybe they had 2 wins that year, and against us, and we'll never live it down. Hurts.
A little Valley connection here going with your team this year. One of the kids that Coach Aiello at Tioga expected to have him start in 2 ways up there is transferred up to your way and had a pretty good game for you last week.
Yeah.
Lamb.
Yeah. I saw Coach again last week at a youth thing, and I definitely feel bad, but we'll take him. Let me tell you. So he's been great. He transferred up here, just had a situation where dude just had to come here. So it's not like he was trying to come up here, didn't want to leave down there, but he had to come up here, and I think it took him a little bit because it's all new system, verbiage, and all that stuff. We could tell from the start that he knows how to play football, and it's a shout out and it's really a testament to those guys in Tioga because you can see off the bat just how well coached he is. How smart he is to the game. And it just shows, the job they do down there. I mean, it's, that anyways by their success, but I mean, now you really see it when you see a kid come in. So, and now I think last week you really saw him start to pick up some stuff defensively on his reads and being more aggressive. And we just expect that to get even better as it goes on. He gets more and more comfortable. And then offensively, it's been tough for him because it's he's trying to learn a new defense and offense. And that's a lot. Yeah. So we tried to defensively really focus on that. And then we're starting to kind of get him in offensively. And I think later as the season goes on, you might see him, in some blocking back situations and carrying the ball at times as the season goes on.
How big is that going to be down the road? Do you think to have a guy in your team that's been through those long seasons and all the way up to the dome, right? Yeah. So how big is that to have that championship mentality on a kid on your team?
Yeah, that's actually a really good point because that's one thing I didn't say that's a really good point is just what he brings to the team, like with that experience and his work ethic and showing the kids, hey, this is what needs to be done if you want to be a champion, to get to that level. So that commitment, that work ethic, and he watches film, he catches things on film and stuff like that, and that can be infectious to those other kids. So that's a really big thing as well.
And what's it going to take for you guys this year to make that kind of deep run in the playoffs?
Cool. Well, I think we got to stay healthy, 100%. That's one thing because we had some players, but there's some areas in our team where we're thin. We lose a couple guys, it can really change, the whole outlook on how we play, offensively and defensively. So I think if we stay healthy and the guys stay committed, and we're going to deal with some adversity, whether it's some games we don't end up winning or something like that as the season goes on. And I think how they respond to it. Because, that's the one thing I've been kind of telling these guys for the last couple of years. We've got ourselves to that opportunity to be in a section championship. We haven't really performed there yet. And I don't know if it's just the moment of time seems too big, or we get a little adversity at that point and then we kind of shut down. But we got to break through that this year. We got to find that next step. And, I think hopefully Jonah can bring a little bit of that too with that experience. I'm sure he's had some moments like that down there.
Well, I think these next 5 weeks are kind of like a mini playoff run for you, right? All these teams you're about to go through.
Absolutely. Right. This is great adversity and see how we come through. And even after those 5, regardless what happens, now you get in the league play. How do you come back from that, regardless how it happens? So these are great, moments, teachable moments, and we'll see what we're made of.
Was this your first year a week 0 game?
We started last year. Actually, we did it. We did CNS one year, which was not great. And then we played Columbia last year and then this year. So
I to be honest with you, if I'm coaching, I want, Jason Miller said it to me at one point, why wouldn't I play a week 0 game? Is you're putting your kids, you're throwing them into the fire and seeing what they can do, and it counts. I mean, is that your philosophy on week 0 too?
100%. Because listen, I get it if you lose the game and it's a loss on the record, but that's it. It's not like doesn't have any impact in like points and seeding and anything like that. So for me, it's like, those scrimmages were kind of controlled. You got there, you knew you're scripting your plays, you're getting these plays, maybe just 10. The kids are getting a lot of game rep situation. It's really, really controlled. And sometimes I just didn't feel we saw everything we needed to. So we kind of moved to, just for us, we actually will do a blue-white scrimmage that week, that first week. So that like Friday, the week before the week 0 game with us and blue and white, it gets all our guys running some plays and we can kind of see them all that way. And then we play that week 0 game and we're just right into a game. And I think usually your biggest improvement is from week 1 to week 2 anyways, because you see so much. And now you're just getting that improvement a lot earlier, right into when could be league games starting sometimes at the beginning of the year. So
right. Okay.
All right, Coach. That's Horseheads football coach Kevin Hillman. Good luck this Friday night down here at Memorial Stadium in Waverly. We'll be over there. I'll have it on the Choice 102 and the My Hometown Today app on the radio, so the Horseheads folks up there can listen to it as well, and we're looking forward to it.
Great. I'm excited. It's going to be a great atmosphere. And if you know any of the officials there, I got a couple $20 bills I can give them, maybe help us out a little bit. I'm just kidding.
That's Horseheads coach Kevin Hillman. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. Look forward to talking to you soon.
We want to thank Horseheads head coach Kevin Hillman for joining us here on Two Guys Talking Sports. Let's get right into his game this week. Tim, the Blue Raiders are going to be coming down to Memorial Stadium to play Waverly in what's one of the more anticipated battles of the 2024 season, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I mentioned it to him. I think that Waverly defense is scary good. They've only allowed 3 points in their first 2 games. Going to be very difficult to run on that team this year. So I think Horseheads will have to establish some sort of run, though, because like you said, you got to give the quarterback some time to throw the football. And if they can't run, that makes it difficult to protect your quarterback. I like Waverly in this game just because I think that defense is the difference.
Yeah, I think the problem with Waverly, if you want to avoid the inside with Cam Hills and Beeman, you try to go outside, but, Colson Keithley might have the quickest closing speed of any linebacker in the area, and Ben Shaw's out there too, and then Matthias Wells kind of setting that edge is pretty tough for opposing offenses.
And if you try to throw the ball, you better throw them quick, or you better be pretty accurate because you got Xavier Watson kind of roaming around back there too.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see how the Waverly offense evolves. Now they've been kind of working on things the first couple of weeks with a new quarterback in Ben Shaw. They've been trying to figure out that bubble screen. I think it should work. I mean, it's with all the athletes they have, it should work. They've been able to trying to figure that out. It's a thing the Eagles tried to run a bunch Monday night there with Britton Covey on the outside, and they have the same kind of speed on the outside at Waverly. So
I think they're surprisingly they haven't run the ball as well as I thought they would. Of course, it's difficult too because Coach Miller's trying to get Ben Shaw acclimated, so he's giving him the throws, and it's tough to dedicate yourself to the run when you're trying to get your pass game going. So I think he'll find a mix and a groove here as we go.
Yeah, I think Fletcher Good and Cooper Robinson have both been great additions to that running game. And what really helps them is when you start wearing down the opposing team with Cam Hills and those guys up front, I think the run game will come in most games this year.
And then they're going to throw Keithley and the counters and Watson in the jet sweeps at you at times, and you can throw Dalton Davis in on the same thing, and they got a lot of weapons there to run the ball at you.
Another big one this week, Tioga Central heading over to Shenango Forks. That's a game that we won't get to see Waverly Forks in the regular season this year, so Tioga Forks should be a good matchup as well, though.
I think so. I don't know. This will be a good test to see where Forks is at. A lot of the buzz, as we say, going around about them is that their line's not quite as good as it has been. They graduated a couple big studs. They've got their quarterback, the younger Paskey kid's back at quarterback. He's quick and elusive running the football. He's going to have to throw the football, I think, to beat Waverly. We'll see, how that goes. They've got their 2 running backs, both back that played last year in a championship game against Waverly. They're both hard runners, Boyle and the other name escapes me, but both good running backs. The whole thing comes down to who's better up front, and Tioga's good up front. Forks is always good up front, but like I said, we'll see if the rumors are right.
This will be a test for them, because if they can't handle Tioga up front, they're probably not handling Waverly up front, right? So
right. I think when you talk about small schools, I think those 2 schools have the best lines, just like they did last year in the small school ranks. I think Waverly and Tioga are 1 and maybe 1B in that respect this year. So I think you're right. I think if Tioga goes up there and can control the line of scrimmage, I think that's promising for Waverly. When the Waverly matches up, it's going to be 10 weeks later.
Yeah.
So, Coach Hogan up there is a great coach, and is, obviously you look at his record in the state titles, he's got 7 of them, I believe. You can't put anything past him as far as they'll be ready for Waverly.
Coach Miller said a couple weeks ago here, as long as Hogan's up there at Forks, everything runs through Forks, right?
Agreed.
As far as that goes, let's look down the line here. BG over at Spencer Burnett and Candor. Svek got their first win of the year a week ago. So what's that game look like?
I'll tell you what, BG to me is the one team in Class D that I think could threaten Tioga. I don't think they'll beat Tioga, but I think they have a really good junior class in there. Their numbers are growing. I told the coach last year after Tioga thumped them pretty good, keep your head up, because they looked as good as anybody did last year with a young team. Their quarterback's pretty good. He'll be junior this year. I like BG in this game, and we'll see how they progress as the season goes. But I think they could be one of the teams, maybe the only team in Class D, Delhi, possibly that could threaten Tioga come postseason.
Stick over in that region there. Newark Valley is going to be at home against Whitney Point.
Whitney Point's, transitioning back into Class C, I believe. Yeah, they're in Waverly's division. They had been independent for a couple years. Program that really struggled with numbers. I think they're bouncing back a little bit. Newark Valley, like I said, great coaching staff there. Good hard-nosed kids. I like their chances at home to make it 2 in a row.
A good matchup, it seems like, on paper anyway. We'll see how it goes. Elmira at Vestal. 2 the bigger schools going at it on the road. Elmira coming off a loss, looking to get that first win of the year, but obviously always have athletes and expect to compete against most teams this year.
Yeah, Vestal's always pretty good. So I think this will be a decent indication of where Vestal stands in relation to Horseheads, because I think they're the only team that's going to threaten Horseheads in that division, the Class A division. So, it should be a good one.
Corning hitting the road to take on Union Endicott. Obviously, if you look at the first couple of weeks, Corning a heavy favorite in that one. Edison taking on Trumansburg on the road. That's another, is that 8-man now there? So it's I think it will be our kind of first look, and we'll have to see how the results are there.
Yeah, I think Edison took one on the chin from Wellsville last week. Wellsville always seems to be pretty good, up in Section 5. Edison's, a lot of rumors floating around that they want to get back into 11-man. They got pretty decent numbers. So we'll see.
And then finally, the last game we're going to talk about, Owego at home. Their first home game of the year. They'll take on Norwich. So looks like a good matchup for Owego, I would think.
Yeah, Norwich is still in that rebuilding process. They were a powerhouse for years. And the last few years, they've been down a little bit, trying to work their way back up. And this is Owego's big senior class, very talented. Joseph Palladino, Elijah Lewis, Conlon Taylor. They've got some players up there. I think I like Owego big in this game, and I think it all comes down, as I've said repeatedly, and I'll probably say it all year, every week. All roads go through Maine Endwell.
Yeah. And Owego, just got to make sure you're not looking too far ahead. You got Horseheads, I think, next week up there in Horseheads. So, that last game of the regular season that's a tough turnaround for Owego, because they'll play the last week of the regular season, then probably play them, 2 weeks later.
Yeah. And it's, the funny thing is we talked a little bit with Coach Hillman about it. In Section 4, these games don't mean much of anything in terms of playoffs, because the only games that count towards playoffs are your divisional games. So Horseheads, not that they will, but they could lose all 5 of these games in this stretch.
It'll be fine.
And they're going to make the playoffs. And if they go 3-0 in their division, they're the number 1 seed. And so it's a different setup.
Yeah.
But, then that Coach Miller's preached that for years. It doesn't really matter. And the tougher schedule you play, the better you are come playoff time, or come divisional time and then playoff time. And that's why I think Horseheads' schedule bodes well for them. Regardless of what they do in this 5-game stretch, they're going to be a better team if they're healthy coming out of it when they go into divisional play against Binghamton, Vestal, and UE.
Yeah, you heard Coach Hillman earlier say, they're going to learn a lot about themselves in this stretch coming up.
They'll be battle tested.
That's a good,
no
like
doubt.
I said, going to be a mini playoff run right there for them, and that'll get it ready for hopefully a run heading on up to the Dome there later on this year. Episode 9 of Two Guys Talking Sports brought to you by J. Lister, LLC, and Lenders Assistance. Want to thank Jim Lister for sponsoring the podcast here. You can give him a call, 607-857-2036. You email him at jim.lister@yahoo.com. Let his 30 years in the automobile industry work for you. And if you want to become a sponsor of Two Guys Talking Sports, just reach out to Tim or myself, and we'll get you on the air pretty much whenever our next episode is. You'll be right on
and
there.
If you get a chance, go to YouTube and click on the subscribe button underneath our screen.
So if you're watching this on one of the Sports Reports websites, you don't see subscribe, so you got to go to the YouTube page and you'll subscribe right there, and that will help us out, as we're getting a great following, getting some good numbers, and we're having a lot of fun doing it. So
Absolutely.
That's going to do it for episode 9 here of Two Guys Talking Sports. We'll talk to you next week.